Am I turning into a Nazi if I see this guy and I can automatically tell I'm gonna hate every single thing he has to say? I don't know what it is. How is that possible? I already know that I hate this person. Am I being like is it physiognomy? What do they call it? Or racist or physiognomy? I can just tell by looking at this person that every single thing he's about to say is gonna make my blood boil. Is it the smug face? I don't know why. I can just tell. I just see it and I know.
Jonah Hill was using therapy speak to control his girlfriend Sarah, his now ex-girlfriend, and it's important that we go over this misuse of therapy language, which is kind of a thing these days, and how it can be super problematic as it masks controlling behavior under a commonly accepted positive concept, in this case, boundaries.
Okay, I agree with everything so far. That is possible. Sure, you can weaponize therapeutic language in order to exercise control over people. That is true. Wow, Diddly Malik 3, thanks for hosting me.
Making it harder for the person on the receiving end, Sarah, to challenge it. Okay, so Jonah is basically telling his professional surfer girlfriend, I am not going to be with you if you surf with men, have boundaryless friendships with men, model, post pictures in a bathing suit, or post suggestive pictures, and are friends with women who are in unstable places. He goes on to say that these are my boundaries for a romantic relationship. Jonah's use of the term boundaries in this message is a misuse of the concept. A boundary is a healthy limit a person sets for themselves to protect their well-being and integrity. It is a rule or guideline that one creates to identify reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for others to behave towards them and how they'll respond when someone passes those limits. However, in the message Jonah sent to Sarah, he is not setting boundaries that protect his emotional well-being.
Okay, I fully admit I'm not a therapist. Maybe therapists have another word for this that I've never heard of in my entire life, but boundaries can absolutely extend to behavior that your partner exhibits that doesn't involve you. For instance, most people have the boundary that their partner is not allowed to f another person. I'm pretty sure we would call that a boundary. This is a boundary of a relationship. Boundaries are typically things drawn around certain behaviors that I don't want you to exhibit. That's why it's a boundary. Don't behave in that way. Somebody else or cheating on somebody would be considered violating a boundary, but that's controlling another person's behavior. All boundaries by definition are to some extent controlling, right? Because you're trying to tell a person what they can't do, right? And these boundaries would indeed protect your emotional well-being, right?
Instead, he is dictating what behaviors and friendships Sarah is permitted to have. He's essentially instructing Sarah on who she can be friends with, what she can do professionally, and how she can show up online.
Okay. I hate therapists. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. None of these things are bad on their face. You need more context. For instance, let's say that you're dating a guy, and let's say that he's overcome a really severe drug habit. Okay. I'm pretty sure one of the biggest predictors of relapsing into drug habits is maintaining friendships with people that still do those drugs. It would be totally fair for a person to say, listen, we can continue to date if you want, or be married, or have a family, whatever. I'm not going to be friends with you if you continue to hang around Frank, who's still an alcoholic. I can't do that. I can't have you putting yourself in those situations. That would be a totally fair statement to make. So there could also be friends that exhibit wild or disrespectful behavior towards a relationship or towards themselves. Listen, I don't want you to go out with Becky. Every time she goes out, she gets blackout drunk and railed by 7 different strippers, right? It's totally fair to say, like, I'm uncomfortable with you maintaining those friendships. Or friendships with people of the opposite sex who are disrespectful towards your relationship. All of these things are fair. I don't like it when therapists see something and they have an ideological bias or side, and they are very quick to come out and say, like, oh, this is always manipulative. This is always abusive. That's not true. You don't know that. There are times when setting these boundaries can be reasonable, and on the other side, there are times when these boundaries can be unreasonable, right? Which is totally fair as well. There are definitely times when some of the boundaries people are setting are too much, right? Where somebody's trying to cut you off from friends or family, or cut you off from external support to make you overly reliant on them so they can abuse you. That's true too. But like, you don't know this without more information.
Be friends with, what she can do professionally, and how she can show up online.
How you can show up online, again, that's a totally fair thing to feel controlling about your partner about, right? It's just, that's totally fair. If you're in a relationship with somebody, then arguably both of you guys are representing each other on social media. Let's say that you've got like a child, and let's say that like the dad or the mom is like posting pictures on Instagram of them doing like fucking cocaine or some shit. You can say like, listen, we've got a kid. They're watching. Like, this is not cool. Don't do that, right? You could theoretically have these boundaries. There's nothing, again.
This is not an example of healthy boundary setting.
You need to talk about why the boundary is unhealthy. You can't make broad, sweeping overgeneralizations like this unless you're just looking for unless you're just looking for brownie points online. You need more information.
Online. This is not an example of healthy boundary setting. Instead, it reflects an attempt at control. It demonstrates a lack of respect for Sarah's autonomy.
Where's Ayla? She was messaging me last night. Us open people hate you, close, hate you monogs when you guys get mad at shit like this. Okay, again, all boundaries are a violation of another person's autonomy and individuality, and they're controlling. Again, that's what a boundary is. By definition, a boundary is you telling your partner that they can't do something that they might otherwise do. That is the whole point of a boundary. Boundaries are worthless if they don't violate your partner's autonomy or individuality to some extent. Now, again, there can be good boundaries and there can be really bad boundaries. But that's the whole point of a boundary. If the partner wouldn't do it anyway, then it's not a boundary. You wouldn't say anything. There's no point to it.
And individuality. Jonah's message is more about restricting Sarah's behavior to suit his comfort levels and insecurities.
Yeah, that. I wonder if this guy, if you posted, oh, I'm going to do a reverse the roles. Oh, my inner misogyny. Hold on. I want to do a reverse the roles here. I feel like if a girl said something, here's something that I wouldn't like this, but I think it's totally reasonable. Okay? I think it's totally reasonable. Let's say that you've got a guy, and let's say that he used to hook up with a girl and dated her for 2 or 3 years in college. Now you're both 26 and you meet the guy and you guys start to hook up and then you start to date, but he's still really close to that other friend. Maybe he goes over to her house sometimes after work to have a drink or watch a movie or whatever. And at some point you're like, listen, you're really close to this person and you used to hook up with them and dated in college. I'm not really comfortable with that friendship being as close as it is. You can make an argument that to some extent this stems from insecurities and your comfort level, but like, is that a bad boundary? Not necessarily. That's not necessarily a bad boundary. Like, that's an understandable boundary to have. Again, a lot of boundaries come from comfort levels and insecurities, everything too.
And insecurities rather than expressing his feelings or needs in a healthy manner. A healthier and less manipulative approach might be for Jonah to express how Sarah's actions make him feel without using ultimatums about what she should or should not do. Side note, I bet he loved how hot Sarah looked in her posts before they got together. So this is a bunch of... Anyway.
I will say this, and I hate therapists that do this. If you're a therapist and you always take the side of your patient and you shouldn't other people in your life, you should kill yourself right now, okay? Never, ever, ever do therapy. You make the world a worse place. You make it worse for your patients. You make it worse for everybody in their lives. Your life probably sucks. That is the worst type of person ever. Especially because you're only getting one side of the story. Especially because you're a fucking therapist, right? Don't they make you watch House or whatever? Everybody lies. Like, why the would you believe one person's account of any particular version of events? Like, do you not have friends? Have you never talked to another human being in your life? Do you not manage interpersonal relationships where you see that one side will lie about the other side or misrepresent things? Like, this and again, this goes back to the one argument. This is like saying like, oh, I met this girl and we hooked up and I love that she like immediately and that was cool and awesome. And then after you start dating, like, listen, you can't hook up with people anymore. Oh, well, you sure did like when she engaged with casual sex with you on the first date, and now you're upset if she like. Yeah, obviously, once you're dating, you probably have a different expectations for a person's behavior versus before then. That's like, I mean, like, that's not the most unreasonable thing in the world. Jesus.